This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social, and I'm delighted to be joined by trainer DOMINIC INGLE. Dom, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Are you?
I'm all good, thanks. Good to hear you doing well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've just come down today. A few announcements with regards to your fighters, and we'll start off with Billy Joe Saunders and the decision to move up to super middleweight. Just talk me through how the opportunity come about and why you've decided to take it.
No, to be honest, it's only come around in the last week or so, and he said to me, "What do you think?" I said, "Yeah, he's a big middleweight. He'll be a medium-sized super middleweight. But if you look at EUBANK, he's moved up there quite comfortably. I don't think it's beyond Billy to operate at super middleweight. I think it'd be quite good. It'll ease off the weight problems and getting down to 11.6. And he is getting bigger. He's doing a lot of weights these days. And I think maybe the new weight will suit him.
Obviously, he was mandated to fight Demetrius Andrade in the fight which was supposed to take place last year before everything happened. Was that ever an issue in terms of the decision to move up? Did you guys think in a very detailed fashion about maybe he's worth taking that fight instead of moving up? Or
I think it shifted when Billy was the champion. The purse split and everything else is always going to be in Billy's favour. He was down for a lot of money. They threw a lot of money at that fight, and now Andrade is the champion. Billy's going to get the raw end of the deal in that fight, I think. So I think it's a good move up, really. Obviously, Billy's not afraid of any fighter, and I think Andrade is a fighter that Billy would beat quite easily. But it's an opportunity. He's straight into a world title fight, which is really what he needs, is that level of a fighter. I mean, obviously he had a little fiddle around fight in December against a nobody, just to finish off the year with a fight. A year of inactivity. So it's a good announcement. It'll motivate him. As you can see, he looks in great shape now. He's training hard, and it's maybe 8 weeks off that fight, and he's in a great place. So it's a title I think he's going to win. It's going to be a tough fight. The guy's a tough guy. It's a good move.
Well, talk to me about his opponent. All that I personally know of him is he fought Anthony Yarde previously, and Anthony Yarde stopped him. Do you think that maybe adds pressure to Billy Joe in the sense that Billy Joe's already a world level fighter, and this is a world title fight that he needs to perform above what Anthony Yarde delivered?
Not really. No, he just needs to win the fight. Yarde's obviously a different weight class, but Billy's going to get that title and make bigger fights. That's what it's all about. But at the end of the day, he never overlooks anybody. On paper it might look like an easy fight, but it's for the vacant title, and I think it's a fight that Billy can beat, can win, and I don't think it's got anything to do with Anthony Yarde, to impress. Billy's a good fighter anyway.
You mentioned Billy needing a world title fight now because this is where he's at in his career. Is that the motivation for him? Is it difficult to get him up for any other fight now? Is that where you guys have reached because of the frustration of the past year or so?
No, not really. I just think, he had a great fight with Lemieux and he just failed to build on it. In the last 12 months, he had the fights falling through with Martin Murray, couldn't get motivated, and he got injuries and various things. And I think he's had a look back now and thought, that's 12 months wasted. And I think in his own mind now, the motivation, he's 29, he's probably coming up for 30 this year. He's got to get a move on. He's got the ability. He's been in the gym all that time. In the last 12 months, he's never been out of the gym. So he's in a different place to where he was previously. He's in Sheffield, he's around a bunch of highly motivated individuals, Liam Williams, Kid Galahad, Jason Quigley, Willie Hutchinson, all these guys. So, he's seen, of late, Liam Williams win the middleweight title, his old title. He's seen Kid Galahad coming up for a world title fight. We've had a guy in Belgium called Yves Ngubu, who's just defended his European title. So all these guys are winning and winning fights and winning titles, and I think it's motivating Billy even more. And you can see he's got a spring in his step. And like I say, it's only 8 weeks off. He gets that title and hopefully defend it maybe 1 to 2 times this year and get him back in the mix.
You mentioned there's some big fights out there at super middleweight. Obviously, this weekend we see James DeGALE versus Chris EUBANK Jr. Firstly, what are your thoughts on that one? And would that be an interesting first defence if Billy Joe was successful?
I think people have said that if the old James DeGALE can turn up, he'll beat EUBANK. But I just think James has been in some tough fights, and every time Chris has stepped up to the plate against Billy Joe Saunders and against George Groves, he's got beaten, and you would expect the same again. But at some point, Chris EUBANK's got to switch on and beat one of the names. He failed it against Billy Joe Saunders. He failed against George Groves. The next one is EUBANK. Is DeGALE. So is DeGALE going to be able to pull it out of the bag like Groves did? Even in that fight, I think Groves was probably past his best, but he just had enough boxing knowledge and sense to beat EUBANK. And James has got that, but it's whether he can pull it into the fight. Because he's had some tough fights of late. So we'll see. I think maybe it might be third time lucky for EUBANK, and if he doesn't beat DeGALE, he really should consider packing it up, because he's never failed to shine or get to the point where he needs to be. He's had all the build-up, the promotion, the name, but when it comes to the crunch fights, he's never failed to grab it.
This is the first fight of Chris EUBANK Jr. with a trainer in his corner as well. Do you think he's left it too late in his career to decide to bring in a trainer?
Well, what trainers he brought in?
Nate Vasquez, he does some work with Mayweather's out in America, and now he's pulled him in as his trainer.
No, I've never heard of him, have you?
Prior to him joining up with EUBANK, I can't say I have.
Listen, the best trainer that EUBANKs have ever had is Ronnie Davis. He's got knowledge, he's got sense, and it's a bit like closing the gate after the horse has bolted. He should have done it early in his career, but what did he do? He listened to his dad. And his dad was a great fighter, but he had Ronnie Davis in his corner advising him, what to do. And really, they should have just let Ronnie Davis get on with the job from the off. Look at him against Billy Joe Saunders. His dad stood in the ring for the first 4 or 5 rounds, posturing and not giving him any advice. And they should have let Ronnie Davis give him the advice. He's been around a long time. But maybe it's too late, who knows? And like I say, I've never heard of that trainer. Maybe he's a good trainer, maybe he's not. There's a lot of good UK trainers he could have gone with, but he's been with a lot of UK trainers, Adam Boo, various trainers. And you have to ask yourself the question, sometimes fighters are there to fight. They don't all necessarily know how to train themselves, but you watch a lot of training videos of Chris EUBANK Jr. He's doing this and he's doing that, and he's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Do you understand? So, at some point, he needs somebody to just get hold of him and give him a good shake and tell him what to do and tell him to behave himself and smarten his act up. Because for me, he's just one of them fighters who's got to the stage, even before he's really achieved anything, of telling the trainer how to train him. And you can't have that in boxing. You understand? You've got to pick a trainer who works for you and you've got to follow their advice.
Let's move on to another one of your fighters who's down here today, Liam Williams. How's he been looking in camp, and how impressed have you been with your link-up and partnership to date?
Liam Williams came to our gym sparring the likes of Kell Brook, Billy Joe Saunders, and you could see he got something about him. He had hard spars with Kell Brook and held his own. And I think he just had the realisation when he came to the gym then that that was a place for him to be. He was, Gary's a good trainer, but he was in the middle of nowhere. It's difficult to get sparring partners in, and I think he needed to be in an environment and in a gym where people could motivate him and he could see similar kind of fighters there. So it's been a great partnership. He's dedicated. He's easy to train. He's always 5 minutes early. He's always, what I say, chomping at the bit for something. And, his last performance, he was coming up from light middleweight. Heffron, he had boxed at super middleweight down to middleweight. I think a lot of people were expecting Mark Heffron to win that fight. But as Liam said, in his mind, he thought he was levels above Heffron. But, coming off defeats, he boxed out of his skin. But it was something he was well capable of doing. He stuck to the plan. It was a great performance. So I'm looking forward to the next, couple of fights with him. He's obviously got Mullinder. Those can be the banana skin type of fights. He's tough. He comes forward, and it's very easy to look at them fights and think, well, yeah, he beat him easy. But it's not a case of thinking it's an easy enough fight. He's got to do a job on Mullinder at the end of the day. It can't be a 12-round fight. Liam's got to be smart and beat that kid within 6 rounds or so. It's Mullinder's world title fight. He's going to be up for this fight, and it'd be very easy for Liam to take his foot off the gas and think that it's going to be easy enough. But no fight's easy. You can never underestimate it. So looking forward to that in a couple of weeks' time. He's in a great place, having some great sparring, and we'll see on the night.
We've just spoken about Billy Joe moving up. Obviously, Liam Williams is contemplating what weight he sees as his best. What's your thoughts on the situation with Liam and his weight?
He's not a massive middleweight, but he's got the punch power, to hold his own at middleweight, I think. For me, I think I'd like to see him down at light middleweight. But it depends where the opportunities present themselves. Like I say, he's going to leave it down to Frank and the team. That's what he does. And we'll overlook anything that's put our way and see where we go and pick the route. Ultimately, he wants to get to a world title fight, and I think he's capable of that. I'd like to see him fight Munguia, the light middleweight champion. That'd be a great fight, and I think it's a fight that Liam can win.
And the word on Nicola Adams as well. She's had to pull out of the Royal Albert Hall show. What was the deal with her injury? She's
just overworked her shoulders. She's had a bit of a niggle all the way, and it's now come to a head. So I think the best route we've taken is to give her a rest on that and then prepare her for a later date. We can't take any risks. She's 34. And she's not a spring chicken, and she puts her body through a lot. So you've got to respect that. You can't just keep pushing people into fights when they're not ready. She's a big name, she's a quality fighter, and you've got to look after fighters like that. And I think she could probably beat the girl even with a bad shoulder, but you can't take that risk. She's an ultimate professional. You've got to be like that around her as well.
And we saw the news the other day that Frank Warren won the purse bids for Kid Galahad versus Josh Warrington. How excited is Kid for that fight now and finally getting a chance to fight for the world title?
Yeah, I don't think he's particularly excited. It's just a fight. What's the next step, and it's it's Prince Nazim's old title, the IBF, and Kid Galahad's got a good connection with Nazim. They've had a lot of advice. I think in his mind, it's written that he's going to win that title. He's fought Josh twice before in the amateurs. I sparred him a few times as a pro. It's going to be a harder fight than most people imagine. I think Josh Warrington is aware of that, but everybody's banging on about the great fights he's in against Lee Selby and Frampton. But I think in Josh Warrington's own mind, he knows how difficult this fight is, because in his mind he's wanting to fight guys at his level or above, and on paper, Galahad looks, a level below, but Warrington's a smart enough fighter to realise this is going to be a tough fight for what it is, and he'd rather be in them type of tough fights against other world champions, not guys who are coming up to take his crown. He wants to be, rubbing shoulders with the best, and really, he's a bit of a fly in the ointment, Kid Galahad, for this, and Galahad's probably getting paid more money than him. There's a lot of things, what's going to be playing on Josh Warrington's mind, why he doesn't want to take this fight. It's great if you're in a big fight and you get, if you're in a fight and it's a close fight and you get beat by a champion of another organisation, but when the pressure's on to fight, to fight and beat some kid who shouldn't be beating you, it's even more pressure. And I look at the stuff on social media and I have to laugh, because people are talking how he beat Lee Selby and Frampton. No disrespect to those fighters. Lee Selby, it was well known he was struggling with the weight, and Cole Frampton's had his career and he's more or less back on the comeback trail, and he probably underestimated Josh Warrington, because Frampton is a better boxer, and he probably did underestimate him, but we're not underestimating anybody. We know how good Josh Warrington is, what an engine he's got and all these other things, and Kid Galahad could fight in 2 weeks' time. Josh Warrington's not ready yet. He's going to need a lot of time. He's had hard fights. He's had a good Christmas. He's living the life. And the time frame for us is great. I think it's going to be sometime in May. But for Warrington, he's going to have to put a lot of hard graft in the gym to get back to the kind of shape he was.
And finally, just wanted to get your thoughts on Anthony Joshua versus Jarrell Miller, which was announced last week. What are your thoughts on that one?
At the minute, I don't think there's anybody to touch Anthony Joshua, only Tyson Fury. So I'm not really interested in the fights what are coming for Joshua at the minute. I think it's a given he's going to beat that guy. I think the fights you've got to be looking at, and I think the only fights I'd be interested in commenting on is Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury type of fights, because that's where they are. They're the three fighters at the top of the game, and they should fight each other 3 or 4 times and see what they've got. I think that's the only fights I'd be interested in.
Well, DOMINIC INGLE, I appreciate your time and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
No problem. Thanks.